is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
17 seconds, high formation now. Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other. It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown official! Calvin Benjamin. Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
And welcome into another episode of Lateral Live. I'm Mike Settle. That is Dustin Franklin. Dustin, last week we were live on location outside Neyland Stadium. This time we're in the cushiony confines of an office and a spare bedroom. A little bit of a different scene, but we're still going to bring you the same witty banter. Dustin, you stayed down at the stadium all day last week. Let's talk about Tennessee Ole Miss, and then we'll get into some other stuff. I just have one question for you. Did you throw one of the mustard bottles or not, man?
No, listen, I know I have a reputation for enjoying the finest condiment that God ever created, which is mustard. And French's is my brand of choice. Get out of here. But no, I did not. I would not waste good mustard by throwing it at the greatest coach in college football. So, no, that was not me.
Man, I got a feeling that mustard bottle was full of, like, vodka or something. There's no way. Well, I did read yesterday, as a matter of fact, groundbreaking news here, that the upper concourse at Neyland Stadium serves mustard out of the bottle. It's the lower concourse that has the big squeeze things. So easily you could have just went and grabbed something from concession and thrown it at Lane Kiffin, which I don't think they were throwing it at Lane. I think golf ball was what got thrown at Lane. I think they were throwing it at the referees, which, listen, I think too much of a big deal was made about all of that. I mean, drunk college kids throw stuff on the field sometimes. Like, it's happened my whole life. While it's not a good look, you find them and you move on, because Ole Miss did that exact same thing like 8 years ago during a game. And so I don't really see the big deal. Also, real quick, now I understand throwing golf balls. That's a little much, but a mustard ball is not hurting anybody.
I want whoever threw that golf ball, I want them to be found and charged with, at the very least, aggravated assault, but I want attempted murder. That could have killed him.
If you say so. I mean, it probably would have given him a black eye or something. Yeah, that game was wild. You were there. Ole Miss gets the win. Close game, though. Look,
yeah,
I'll take this away. Matt Corral's a little banged up. That's going to affect the game that we talk about later today. I'll say this, Dustin. That Tennessee team is feisty, man. That's a feisty football team. They play hard for Josh Heupel, which is not something I think either one of us expected, to be quite honest with you. Not that we were down on Heupel completely, but more so that we just – I'll be honest, Dustin, the cupboard was bare. The cupboard was bare, and we'll talk about Jeremy Pruitt here in a little bit, because that's hilarious. Ho par ho. But, yeah, man, that Tennessee team fights from underneath. And Hendon Hooker, who, again – him playing today is in question. I'm interested in this Tennessee team, which is not something I thought I would say. I was already interested in Ole Miss, and again, they have a game today that makes me even more interested now. But I took away from that game, Tennessee's got something they can build on here.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we said it for the past couple of weeks. I mean, Josh Heupel's done a great job of coming in and established things very early on that Tennessee fans and Tennessee players could be proud of. I think he's got the program moving in the right direction, and they're going to be an exciting team to watch in a couple of years. They're very close now. They may be a very exciting team to watch next season.
Yeah,
because Hendon Hooker still has 2 years eligibility.
Yeah, made the right choice leaving Virginia Tech. That was smart, considering what that offense has ended up being. Is he healthy enough to go today? He's going to need to be because they got a game that's interesting. We'll say that for a little bit. Okay, so not a whole lot happened last week, but we had the LSU Florida game, which we're going to talk about, but more so in a roundabout way of coaching talk. This is the time of year where coaching talk kind of gets fired up a little bit. The wheels start spinning. Let's go to that Florida LSU game. Let's start there. Ed Orgeron out as the LSU head coach, kind of mutually deciding to part ways at the end of this year. I don't think there was anything mutual about it, but I read from Ross Dellinger and everybody else that decision was made prior to the game against Florida. Ed Ogeron knew going into that game that he would be out at the end of this year. I wonder if he told his team, because I got to be honest, they played their ass off like they were excited, man. I don't know if they played for Ed O or to spite Ed O. I've read conflicting reports on that. But let's talk about, first of all, LSU and Ed Ogeron, because there's more to it than you would think. And let's talk about the Florida LSU game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that you see a team get a win and then the coach be announced that he's not coming back, especially when the team that got that win was an underdog heading in. Huge win for the program, but honestly, I'm surprised that Coach O lasted as long as he did. I mean, with all the stuff that was allegedly covered up with, Darius Geis and everything, and all the criminal activity that was apparently being swept under the rug, I'm surprised it lasted this long.
Yeah.
I hate that I was wrong. I thought that Coach O was just, I thought he was going to be dirty, because what coach isn't, but I didn't know he was going to be that dirty, I guess. So, yeah, just incredible. The timing is the only thing that's curious to me.
Yeah. I think that they didn't want another Les Miles situation on their hands. If you remember, 6-7 years ago when Les was kind of fighting for his job every week, he won some games at the end. They held on a little too long, and the next year they start 1-3, and he's out the door. I think they wanted to prevent that. There's a lot of off-the-field stuff, man. Again, it's been written everywhere. You can go to The Athletic, and Ross Dellinger at SI's got a really good piece, very comprehensive, about what led to this. This was less on the field. Now, there's some on-the-field stuff, too. Obviously, this year has been underwhelming. But there's some off-the-field stuff, like having girlfriends, kids, and drills at practices, which – I mean, that's nothing. Lots of coaches do that. That's not anything to me. But just letting a lot of personal stuff bleed into the program, along with the fact that all the sexual assault allegations with Darius Geis, among other things, just a lot happening there. And we've talked about it. Unless it's something extreme, winning cures all. Well, whether that's right, wrong, that's irrelevant. Winning cures all. So I don't think the on-field product was enough to save Ed Ogeron. So Ed Ogeron is out, but he gets a big win against Florida at home. That's a noon kick, which, Tiger Stadium is usually not known for noon kick environments. They were loud. Dustin, LSU ran a boring-ass counter 14 times for 14.7 yards a carry against Florida to success and got a win. So let's talk about the losing end of that game really quick, since we're talking about coaches. In your opinion, is Dan Mullen's seat hot?
It's warm at the very least. And I think that he'll win enough games. He's not going to get fired. Let's be real here. But I think there's enough unrest from the fan base to where it's going to cause some noise to where next season, if he's not putting the product on the field that we expect, then next season he could be in serious danger of losing that job, losing that program. Because the reality is, I saw a breakdown the other day of the splits between Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones, and Richardson is head and shoulders better in every category.
Absolutely.
Explosive plays, percentage downfield, there's all kinds of categories. And so everybody's like, what is he seeing at practice? What are you doing? Why do you keep – it's almost like
loyal to a fault.
Yeah, loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's going to have to make some decisions there. That's where it starts, because his offense is it takes a certain kind of quarterback, and it's just clear. Unfortunately, it's clear that Emory's not that guy.
Right. Again, I think he's loyal to Emory because Emory stayed around when he could have left. After Kyle Trask is starter, Felipe Franks as well. I think he's loyal to a fault here. That's his big mistake number one. Big mistake number two is not making some staff changes on the defensive side of the ball. A certain coordinator, perhaps. But last week to me wasn't necessarily coordination, man. they kind of did what you're supposed to do to stop that counter up the gut, and they just didn't stop it. It's not that it was schemed up poorly, so I don't know what's going on there. What I will say is right now, through the amount of games he's been there, in his last however many games, same as Jim McElwain, same as Will Muschamp. A lot of people talk about his recruiting and everything else, and he can't out recruit this situation. I think we both agree that on game day, Dan Mullen is one of the best X's and O's coach in college football. I don't think there's any disputing that. Could you see a situation where there's unrest? A lot of people, a lot of bull gators, big time boosters don't particularly care for Dan. Could you see a scenario where Dan looks to moving his coaching situation to Sundays?
Well, I mean, that's interesting. Well, I could see that. I could also see him looking, at one of these other jobs that are pretty attractive that might be coming open at the college level. But, I mean, I could definitely see that because we've seen it for years with Mike Gundy. I don't see how Mike Gundy has put up with the Oklahoma State boosters as long as he has. And now he just signs a perpetual 5-year contract, which is mind-blowing to me because it seems like they're at each other's throats every time you turn around. I don't see Dan Mullen getting trapped in that kind of situation. So I could see him saying, okay, you want me to go, then I'll go.
Yeah, I have just a weird feeling, and I don't know anything, okay? But I have a weird feeling that Dan doesn't like it there, and they don't like him there. That's the feeling I get. Now, Scott Strickland may like him, and that's the AD that hired him in his last 2 jobs. So I understand, but I don't know. There's something weird going on there, man. Like there seems to look. They're 1 week away, probably. Now, look, I think they could give Georgia a game because Dan shows up in big games, calls good plays. Could totally see that being the closest game Georgia plays all year. However, they're probably 1 week away from being 500. That's not going to get it done at Florida, especially coming off a year where you were 8-4 with the best offense that program has seen since 2008. So a lot to be I don't think he's in trouble. I just think it's a situation to keep your eye on. Let's stay in state, Dustin, since, we're both Florida State fans. We could poke the bear at these other 2 programs today since they spent the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season poking at us. Minnie Diaz has to go, right? Has to.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about the glory days of Miami lately on the lateral, like you mentioned, and it's just what's going on down there right now is just sad. Like, this.
I kind of feel bad for Manny. I
feel bad for Manny, too. I didn't see this coming. I didn't think that he would fall in the under the same umbrella as Al Golden, as Randy Shannon. Like, I had high hopes for what Manny was going to do at Miami. Now, the FSU fan of me says, good.
Yeah.
But the college football fan of me says, nah, man, come on. We need Miami to be back. And they ain't been back in a long time, but we need it.
Man, if you had said a month ago, as a Florida State fan, that you feel good about the Miami game, you would have laughed, right?
Yeah.
You feel kind of good about it now, don't you?
Definitely. Yeah. And you know well as I do that I'm probably the most harsh critic of Mike Norvell and this Florida State fan that you'll find, but it's all lining up to where, this is probably going to be the year because Derek King out for the year, Cameron Harris out for the year. You got players in the transfer portal. Yeah. It's just, this tell you what, if Mike doesn't win, then
I'll have some words. That's a game. That's a game Mike has to go get, and I think he's got a good chance to. Luckily, they play UMass today. Fingers crossed. God Almighty, please don't even fool around with that game, Mike. Don't do that. Man. I just think the Miami situation is less on Manny, although I don't think Manny's this great head coach. I like Manny. I think he's an okay coach. I'd rather him be a DC. By the way, if there's a DC position in Tallahassee open next year, I'm just saying. Manny and Mike got a little connection, right? Anyway. But no, so I just think it's the infrastructure at Miami. They are not invested. There's talent on that team, but we knew there were weak spots coming in. Dustin, they do not tackle. They literally don't tackle. And that's just, X's and O's. That's not to mention everything else going on around the program. So it's kind of fun to poke fun at the 2 rivals here today, even though not that we have a ton of room to say anything. Let's go stay in the South real quick, and then we're going to go way out west because that's interesting out west, what's going on out there. We'll stay in the South. Jeremy Pruitt is suing Tennessee, and I got to tell you, buddy, in the words of the social network, you better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm coming for everything. Jeremy Pruitt is coming out with guns a-blazing. I'll say this. It's one of those, if I'm going down, I'm taking every last one of you with me situation.
Yep, absolutely. And, I mean, pay the man. Just if you're Tennessee, settle. Just find a number that you can both agree on.
Because, buddy,
he obviously has something. He has some dirt on other programs. He's already mentioned, Rick Barnes in the basketball program. Just get it over with. Put it behind you. You're doing great things with Josh Heupel. You have a lot to be proud of and a lot to hang your hat on right now. Make this Jeremy Pruitt situation disappear and forget about it.
Right.
Because he's not going to go out quietly.
Right. I'll say this, and then, we could kind of move on. But I do think that they need to just pay up, own it, move on, take the hit, because, buddy, he probably has dirt on basketball. He's got dirt on how he was hired, which is not the most clean break in the world either. All the Philip Fulmer stuff that happened during that whole situation. So that's on the table. And I think he would probably he's not coaching anywhere right now, dude. So he may even have to sell himself out just to get paid. Like, he's got a lot of ammo. If I were Tennessee, I would. Now, what I will say, Danny White, smart guy, I think anyway, as the AD, I'm going to tell you, he is a gangster in the AD world. Him and Scott Woodward, they're like, all right, we're not here to play around. We got some things to take care of. So I think they're doing their due diligence first. So that's an interesting story. That's going to keep developing over the season. I hope that this doesn't hang over the head of the Tennessee program because they're fun. They're fun right now.
Yeah, they are. And honestly, I think it's interesting. Is this going to hang over the New York Giants' head? He's a senior, he's a defensive assistant.
I forgot
with the Giants.
Jesus Christ. Is it going to hang over the Giants' head? The Giants stink, pal. They're worse than the Eagles, and the Eagles stink.
Yeah, I don't watch NFL anymore. The Browns were the biggest disappointment in football. So
they got a win, big win. Big win at home the other night.
Yeah.
Case
so
Keenum.
should we start Case Keenum going forward?
No.
Tune into ESPN. That's all they want to talk about these days. Anyway, let's go back to college.
Well, the New York Giants hired Joe Judge. They deserve everything they got. All right, one more coaching situation. Nick Rolovich out at Washington State. I don't really want to get political, although it's kind of hard not to, because that's the reason that Nick Rolovich is out at Washington State. Look, state government mandates a vaccine. He refused to take it. Cause for firing. They had to fire him. He really left that school no choice.
Yep.
And that I don't really want to get into what Nick Rolovich believes and all this other stuff. That's a whole separate conversation. But
it is worth mentioning though, because
of course
he cited a religious exemption, and Nick Rolovich was raised Catholic, and the Pope and Vatican have come out and say they endorse the vaccine. So what grounds do you really have to stand? Now he's suing the university as well. So this is back-to-back coaches that just don't want to go out quietly. He's suing Washington State. He won't win. The unfortunate thing is that not only did he take this stance and make it, he can probably afford to more than the 3 assistants that lost their jobs as well.
That's the problem. That's the issue.
That's the problem.
Yeah. That's my problem with what Nick Rolovich did, and that's my problem with what his assistants did, the ones that refused to take the vaccine. Man, you're leaving a lot of money on the table here. It's really not Washington State's fault that that's a state mandated for all government employees. And guess what? You're the highest paid person in the state of Washington, as far as I'm concerned. You really are leaving the school no choice. Yep. And here's the thing, man. That team is not bad.
They've won 3 straight.
They're turning it around. A lot of the players are upset that this happened. And I get that. When you are in the thick of things with your coach, it's hard, man, to just have them leave halfway through the season like that. But again, Washington State, no choice but to make this move. And I understand Nick Rolovich's point on suing, but not going to win that case, man. Because guess who else is Catholic? Washington State's AD, his boss. It's a wrap, man. You're not going to win that case. You have no grounds to stand on. I'll say this about Washington State. They're going to have some pretty good coaching options next year, I think, out of the G5 that are out west. My man at San Jose State is an option. There's a couple good coaches they could land.
Well, and honestly, Jake Dickert, the defense coordinator that took over, he has a chance to really make some noise because this team, like I said, they've won 3 straight. They're tied for first, I believe, in the Pac-12 North.
They could still win the North.
They can still win the North. So if he makes a statement, he's only 38 years old. He has a great chance to become a Power 5 head coach with his first job and inherit a lot of talent to do it with. So you're saying he's the next Dabo Swinney. Okay. All right. Okay. Washington State's the next Clemson. Hopefully they're not this year's Clemson. We'll get to that in a little bit. One more thing before we preview this week's games. Realignment, which we love. We talked about it a million times, how much we love realignment. How about the dominoes that Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC has set here, man? Obviously, a couple weeks ago, we talked about UCF, BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston moving to the new Big 12. The AAC replaces them with I'm excited, but what I think is some questionable choices only because they put it in big TV markets that I don't think matter anymore. I don't think markets so much matter as much as football brands do. So, look, let's go over it. The AAC adds UAB, FAU, Charlotte, UTSA, Rice, and North Texas. I get UAB. Smart move. Totally get it. It'll be the best G5 in that state. Got it. No big deal. FAU, I get. It's a choice. I understand it because you're in the Florida market, and it's a program that invests money-wise, okay? So they're not broke boys down there because any school in Boca can't be. So that's fine. I understand UTSA. By the way, is there anybody that was in the right place at the right time than UTSA? Right. If this happened 2 years ago, they're screwed, pal. Yep.
But now you get the San Antonio market. It's a big-time team. But again, it's a loyal fan base. I get it. Rice? I know they're in Houston, but Rice? And then North Texas? Buddy.
Yeah, that's the biggest head scratcher to me is North Texas.
Yes.
I think Charlotte was a good get for them. Charlotte's a program that's moving in the right direction, and they got a fantastic young coach in Will Healy. But
yes, they do.
North Texas and Rice, those are the two that's like, ugh. And North Texas is the one that stands up. One of these things is not like the other. Yes, North Texas. What? Yeah.
Now, again, a couple years ago when Seth Luttrell had it rolling, I mean, I get it, but they're not in a good – Denton, Texas is not a good TV market. That's not what you do. I'm a fan of the Mean Green, have some of the best uniforms in college football. Quite frankly, they just stink right now. And so I don't quite get the move, and they're not some all-around great athletic program either. So that's not the case to be made. Weird choice. I understand Charlotte for football. I don't know what they are in other sports. I imagine they probably could be better at basketball at some point just because the AAC, but I will say this. This move doesn't help any of the other sports at all, which, we talked about some of the schools they could add to kind of boost their all-around sports. This doesn't help, buddy. This is not a good lineup of basketball schools or baseball programs or whatever. This is interesting. The AAC going with markets over brands, which I think is a dated strategy, in my opinion.
Certainly a choice. Yeah.
It's certainly a choice they could have made, and they made it. Well, by the way, I don't want to, poop all over it. Good for FAU. Good for Willie being in a better conference. That'll help him out a little bit with some of the recruiting. I'm just interested to see how good the AAC actually will be from a brand standpoint. Now, let's shift gears for a second because we're talking about the conference all those teams are leaving, Conference USA. That conference is dead. We can tombstone that conference right now because they have some other teams leaving to go to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Southern Miss.
Yep,
Marshall,
they're out.
Southern Miss is gone.
Yeah.
Marshall and Old Dominion are still deciding, I believe, is the last I saw.
That's the move. Marshall, be smart. Be smart about it. Gotta go now. Get out.
And James Madison is moving up, and they're
Great
going
move.
to join the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is a respectable conference. The Fun Belt is fun.
Dude, the Fun Belt will be the best the best Group of 5 league, I think.
Put some respect on the MAC. But
well, let's talk about the MAC in a second.
This leaves the Conference USA with 5 teams.
Oh, well, they're dead.
They're dead. You got what? MTSU,
Western Kentucky,
FIU.
Can you name them? UTEP.
UTEP. And another one that, no disrespect, but you're a sitting duck as well. You got to find a home.
Louisiana
schools, Tech. Louisiana Tech. Yep. Get out.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll move on to this week's games. Louisiana Tech is screwed, dude, because the Sun Belt doesn't want them because the other Louisiana schools hold a grudge. That they're not going. They got no home. If the AAC didn't call them, they got no home. So Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, probably going to find a home in the MAC. That's the rumblings. There's been feelers on both sides. Makes sense to me from both parties to add both of those schools. I think that's a pretty good fit there. And if Marshall, I think the MAC is still bitter at Marshall. So if the Sun Belt calls, you take the offer. That's what you do. So that's going to leave them with 3 schools. And if I'm UTEP, here's what I do. The WAC exists. They're an FCS conference right now, but they're making the transition 2 years from now to FBS. That's the plan. Join the WAC, go down for 2 years. You'll be right back in FBS football. That's the move. Because if not, you're going to be an independent, and we know how bad UTEP can struggle anyways. That's going to be tough for them. Probably people are tired of hearing us talk about the Conference USA, but it's interesting because it all started with Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is crazy.
There's also not a lot of games to talk about this week. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you have kids in the car or wherever, you should listen to me now, or you should maybe plug your ears for a second. The slate is what I call assy. Very assy.
Yeah. Not great. Not great.
All right, let's get it rolling.
Let's do it.
Okay. 12-3 window. Here we go. Wake Forest at Army, 12 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. This is one of the detailed breakdown games. This is some slim pickings here, buddy. Look, I picked Army to upset Wisconsin last week. I was close. 6-point game. Came down to a late turnover. Just saying. By the way, anytime Army's in a situation where they have to pass, they're probably going to lose that game. I could totally see. Man, there's a part of me that wants go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
All right. So Wake comes in 3-point favorites. Army is 4-0 this year when they rush for over 250 yards and 0-2 when they don't. That does not bode well for them going up against this Wake Forest defense. Wake has only allowed over 210 yards once this year, and that was to Syracuse. Army does like to control the ball, and Wake likes to attack on offense, so it's very contrasting styles there. I think Wake's offense is going to be too much, and they should roll. Wisconsin beat Army, and they don't even have a competent quarterback. Wake regularly puts up over 400 yards of total offense. I like Wake Forest to win this game by 10 points.
Okay. Again, undefeated Wake. I think this game's going to be real short because every Army game does not last very long because they control the time of possession. I think Wake can kind of strike quicker than Wisconsin could as far as their offense goes. I think Army will play really good defense against them, though. They have a good defense. So, I understand what you're saying. This is only the third-ranked team, Dustin, to make the trip to West Point in the last 100 years.
Interesting.
I'm going to take Wake and the points. I just have a soft spot for Army because, man, they're fun. They're the good kind of triple option team. They're the good kind, and I appreciate what they do. And I appreciate Service Academy football, which, by the way, Air Force wrecking shop out there in Colorado. Yeah. Holy smokes, they're mean. Anyway, I'll take Wake as well. I think Wake stays undefeated. It's gonna be hard for Wake to kind of navigate this schedule going forward, but it's starting to come down to one game. One game is gonna kind of tilt the the Wake Forest season. It's interesting. All right, Dustin. Again, slim pickings. Syracuse at Virginia Tech, 12:30, ESPN3. Buddy, this is tough. Okay, Virginia Tech's were nice throwback uniforms from the Mike Vick era. Okay, we caught that up. That's much better than their uniforms stink now. They need to go back to those. Those are sick, man. Cuse has lost their last 3 games by 6 points or less. Florida State, Wake, Clemson. All those games were close in the fourth quarter, had a chance to win. That's a tough way. Do they get off the snide today, or does Virginia Tech stop being so damn inconsistent?
Yeah, Virginia Tech's 3.5-point favorites at home. Sean Tucker and Garrett Schrader, though, they should get the ground game going early against this Virginia Tech defense. Virginia Tech gave up a season high of 208 yards on the ground last week to Pitt. I think Cuse can do that and some more. They're the ACC's best ground game. If Virginia Tech can contain the run, then that changes things. The defense is pretty solid at home this year. And Schrader did look flat out bad against Clemson passing the ball. So they can contain the run and force Schrader to pass. That could be beneficial for them. That could really swing things. I think this game should be relatively boring. It's going to be a grinding game. I do think it'll be a close game. But I like Syracuse to get the win outright on the road. I don't usually throw in the overs and unders on this show. Take the under. It's 45.5. This game is going to be boring.
I think the Syracuse defense is good. I think Virginia Tech's defense is just okay. I love the way Syracuse runs the football, which I was not expecting coming into this season at all, especially with the Dino Babers coach team. I think Garrett Schrader's okay. He's not anything special. He's just okay as a quarterback. Yeah. I actually like Syracuse to win and win pretty comfortable. This Virginia Tech program is on shaky ground, man. I'm not a believer in Braxton Burmeister. I love Sean Tucker and the Syracuse run game. Give me Syracuse to win by 2 scores. And maybe I'm off there, but I just have this feeling that Syracuse has been so close the last 3 weeks to winning their games. I don't think it's discouraged them. I think it's going to help them, and catapult them going forward. They're going to beat somebody they're not supposed to. Now, this isn't that game. These are 2 equally matched teams. But I think Dino Babers gets off the snide this week and gets a win for Syracuse. All right, Dustin. Again, slim pickings, man. Wisconsin at Purdue. I'm going to call this now. Purdue is going to beat the crap out of Wisconsin. That is not a good Wisconsin football team. Purdue's good at home. They got a big one over Iowa last week. Their defense, surprisingly, the Purdue defense is what's really, really good. And they got some dynamic playmakers on offense. I like Purdue to win pretty comfortably here.
Yeah, Wisconsin's 2.5-point favorites. I don't understand.
That's the helmet. It
is. Week in, week out this season, I'm like, how is Wisconsin favored? How is Wisconsin favored? They do it again on the road against, like you said, a pretty good Purdue defense. Now, I get it. The Wisconsin defense is solid. I mean, they're actually number 2 in the nation in total defense behind Georgia. But Graham Mertz is awful. He can't keep his own team in the game. So the defense this game will probably have a bunch of turnovers between the 2 teams. I put the over-under for total turnovers at 6.5. David Bell is going to be the key to the game here.
Right.
If he can establish a run against that Wisconsin's third-ranked defense against the run, Purdue should roll, and I think they will. So I say Purdue by a field goal. They get the win.
Purdue had a little bit of a shaky start to their season, but I kind of kept them in the back of my mind because I saw the defensive numbers and I said, okay, this team is not what we thought, but I do think they're better than people were giving them credit for out of the jump. They proved it last week. Iowa just had no answers. And maybe Purdue's defense looked so good because Iowa's offense is so bad, but I don't think so. It's been a consistent theme throughout the season. So I like the Boilermakers, man. I tell you what, if Purdue goes and loses this game, I'm actually going to be pissed because this is not a Wisconsin team. This is not your older sister's Wisconsin, if you know what I mean. This is not a very good football team.
Did you just make that 70s show reference?
You dang right I did, pal.
Lori Foreman, baby. Call me sometime.
Hey, that's a different show, pal. You're still on my catchphrase. All right, let's go rapid fire here. And by the way, that game is 3 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. I highly suggest you don't watch that game unless you really just enjoy boring football. Actually, I'm not going to discourage you from watching any game that you want to. More college football is always good. UMass at FSU, 12 o'clock, ACC Network. I think Walt Bell and Dante Pimpleton's return to Florida State is crushed early. I like the Noles to roll and win big. 3 games in a row with a big game on the horizon, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. FSU's 35.5-point favorites. When's the last time we've said that?
Yeah.
Walt Bell's return game, as you mentioned.
They're so
sucks.
bad. God,
his team sucks. Go Noles. FSU by 40+.
Yeah, I could totally see that being a bludgeoning. By the way, Mike Norvell, you're not listening to me, but if you catch wind of this, don't screw around like this is a scrimmage. Go out, act like it's Clemson or whatever, take care of business, step on the throat, and then throw the backups in. Let's see some backups here.
This isn't the time to experiment and get these cute trick plays. Let's see if this works. No. Hammer down.
Do that after you go up by 30. Do that then.
Yes.
Don't do it early. Stop that. Go in, win the game, and then throw in some Chubba Purdy. Let's see Mackenzie Milton. That's a feel-good story. Whatever, okay? Let's go in and take care of business, okay? UMass, the second worst team in all of FBS. Go take care of business. Kansas State at Texas Tech. If you had told me 3 weeks ago who I thought the better team in this game was, I would have told you Kansas State. Man, I don't know. Now, the record is what the record is. I think Texas Tech may be the worst 2-loss team in the country. They're interesting to me. I'm going to take Texas Tech at home, though. That's 12 o'clock on FS1.
Yeah, this game is basically a pick 'em. The line, I think, is at 1 favoring Texas Tech.
Yeah.
It's very contrasting styles here. Kansas State likes to control the clock and run. Texas Tech is Texas Tech. They like to air that thing out. That's exactly what's going to happen here. I like the Red Raiders by a touchdown.
Northern Illinois at Central Michigan, 12 o'clock, ESPNU, man. We got some slim picks this week. Here's what I'll say.
I had to throw this one in because we haven't picked a MAC game all season, and I love the MAC. So
yes, we have. Yes, we have. Son of a gun. Yeah, I put some MAC games on there, buddy. I put some MAC games on there. I love the MAC, too. It's just not the Fun Belt, Anyway, Northern Illinois at Central Michigan, 12 o'clock, ESPNU. The Huskies, surprising the hell out of me. Thought they were going to be bad this year. They're not. Give me Northern Illinois on the road.
Central Michigan won this game last year 40-10. Northern Illinois is 0-7 against the spread against Northern Illinois in their last 7 matchups. So give me Central Michigan by 10.
Okay. Here's the 3:30 to 7 o'clock slate. Okay, I found some intrigue in this time window. This is the window of opportunity as far as seeing some competitive, decent football games, I think. Oklahoma State at Iowa State, 3:30 on Fox. Iowa State's favored, Dustin.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say. That could just be people not believing in Oklahoma State. This offense under Spencer Sanders, not very good. It's not bad, but it's not very good. And just kind of maybe the preseason hype of Iowa State. They only have 1 loss in the Big 12, okay? So I guess I could see it. They're at home, tough place to play. I'll tell you what, though. That Oklahoma State defense is so much dang fun to watch. They're awesome. They fly around. They hit you in the mouth, and they're fundamentally sound. I think this season is setting up for Bedlam at Bedlam. Give me the Cowboys, man. I like Oklahoma State to win. I love how they run the ball. They control the clock. They keep it away from you as much as possible. Spencer Sanders can make enough plays. Give me the artist formerly known as Mullet and the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier Mike Gundy signed that perpetual 5-year contract, so he's riding a high that coming into this week. The first note I wrote was, how is this spread real? Iowa State by a touchdown is favorites. Jalen, listen, Iowa State is the best in the Big 12 against the run on defense. They're actually 3rd nationally overall. But Jalen Warren is on a tear. He's got 4 straight 100-plus yard games. I think he's going to be the difference maker here. I think he's going to have a field day. Oklahoma State's defense has been a pleasant surprise this year. I look for them to slow down. Now, that Iowa State offense has been in a groove lately, but I look for the Oklahoma State defense to really hold them and contain them. So I like the Cowboys to remain unbeaten and win outright as well.
Yeah, and I just think this Iowa State team was fraudulent goats, man. I don't think they were as the real deal as we thought they were. And we kind of talked about that in the preseason. This would be the year that they had to take that next step, and I don't think that they have. And I just think Oklahoma State's a better football team, man. We'll see. We'll see here today. All right, Oregon at LSU, the Chip Kelly Bowl, 3:30 ESPN. Fun games.
Oregon at UCLA. You said LSU.
Oh, did I? Oregon at UCLA, Chip Kelly Bowl, whatever, same thing. Same coast and everything, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I don't know. I could not decide where I wanted to go with this game because Oregon has so many players out on that offense. And the offense wasn't great to begin with. They're out C.J. Verdell. They got some replacements. Man, I'm telling you, Anthony Brown at quarterback is so frustrating to watch. I just don't think he's very good, but he's been put in really good situations to win games. And the defense of Oregon is still pretty good. They've already had their one game a year they always had. They have it against, they had it against Stanford. But this is just not the same roster that took the field against Ohio State 6 weeks ago. It's just not. It's not the same team. This UCLA team also so inconsistent. The games they've lost, they probably should have won. I like UCLA in the trenches against Oregon's defense line. This is probably one of the tougher offensive line that good Oregon defensive line has had to go up against. I like the ground game of UCLA. I think UCLA wins at home. This was a tough one for me to call, man. I was high on Oregon at one point, but all the injuries and everything else, I'm just not sure what they are right now. So give me the Bruins at home.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough game for Vegas to pick as well. I mean, UCLA is 1.5-point favorites at home. The thing is, I think Oregon will be able to establish the run a little bit early on. That's going to open up things for Anthony Brown and that passing attack. Now, you mentioned he has been inconsistent. He's been frustrating. But this UCLA defense is last in the Pac-12 in passing defense. So I think that's a great recipe for Anthony Brown to have a big game. I think UCLA is going to run the ball well too, but Oregon's just going to wear down Chip Kelly and keep the playoff dream alive for at least another week. I like Oregon by a touchdown.
Okay, all right, man. This may be Oregon's toughest game. They have the Oregon State game at the end of the year, but I think we kind of know how that may go. But man, it's this game right here. You got to get it, and Washington State's still on the schedule, so that could also be tough. Oh man, here we go. Game of the day. Are you ready? Clemson at Pitt. Dustin, tell me who's favored in this game.
That would be Pittsburgh by 3.5.
Woo! There's some distrust up there. There's some unrest in Clemson. If you look at the message boards, they want people fired. They want DJ replaced. Things are not well up there in Death Valley. Buddy, they're out their top 3 receivers. One to COVID. It looks like they may have to contact trace some of the other ones. They're out 3 of their best playmakers on an offense that didn't have a ton of playmakers to begin with. DJ refuses to run. I don't understand if he just can't or whatever that is. Whatever they're asking him to do, I would ask him to do more. Okay. Now, the real story of this game is Pitt. Kenny Pickett, Heisman Trophy contender. I think that's a pretty solid bet at this point that if he keeps on track, he'll be invited to New York City. He's maybe playing himself into some money, which, by the way, he was a top quarterback coming out of high school, so finally living up to some of his potential. I like Pitt. I like Pitt comfortably. What I will say before you go, this would be the ultimate Pitt game if they go out and lay an egg. I know the Clemson defense is still good, but even they're down some players. This is the game for you, Pitt. This is all right for you. Go take it.
Yeah, I can't believe Pitt is favored to beat Clemson. But what I can't believe even more is that I agree. Like how far we've come in just a year's time. Kenny Pickett is the difference here. He'll provide offense, and quite frankly, Clemson doesn't have offense to provide. You mentioned him as a Heisman contender. I don't hate that either. I think that he's, it's Matty Corral's award to lose at this point, but he'll get an invitation, and that's a huge thing. Smart decision. He was contemplating going to the NFL draft last offseason. I'm glad he came back because he's went from probably a 5th to 6th round draft pick to really right now I could see him being a 2nd round draft pick at quarterback.
Yeah.
Pitt's defense, run defense is also very solid. And so that's, for a Clemson team that struggles to find an offensive rhythm, going up against a solid run defense is going to be tough for them. I like Pitt to win this game by about 10 points.
I I think they could cruise if they jump out early. I think it's kind of a lay down situation because Clemson just does not have the offense to get back into a game. That they can't go score for score with anyone, not just Pitt, but anyone. I mean, they can't go score for score with Syracuse, Boston College, etc. They don't have the horses, and so that's why next week, little interesting. Come on, baby. All right,
We'll see.
I don't want to. I'm living in the sky right now. Let me live, damn it. Let me live up there.
Go for it.
Okay. Here's the best game of the week, by the way, right here. LSU at Ole Miss, 3:30 ESPN. This game 2 to 3 weeks ago, I would have given a big win to Ole Miss. I'm going to come out and say I still think Ole Miss wins the game. However, their defense, Dustin, still huge question marks. I don't think they're going to – if LSU comes out and runs counter, and runs play action off of that again, Ole Miss is in a little bit of trouble, man. They've found something that works. The LSU offensive line a little bit healthier than they were earlier in the year. I still think Ole Miss wins this game at home. This is a one-sided rivalry. LSU doesn't view it as a rival, and Ole Miss does because, dating way back into the day when both programs were on equal footing. I just think the Ole Miss offense is too much. Does Matt Corral play? Question mark. I think he will try to play. It looks like his injury is not as bad as we thought. Mm-hmm. So I like Ole Miss, but I think it's a pretty close football game.
There's a buzz going on in Oxford today. I mean, they're retiring Eli's number, and coming off that, yeah.
Who's in town as a recruit, Dustin?
That would be future Ole Miss quarterback Arch Manning, I believe.
Future Alabama quarterback Arch Manning.
No, that ain't happening. Ole Miss is 9.5-point favorites here. I mean, coming off that scare against Tennessee, I think that Lane's gonna have the boys ready to play. You can't come out and almost lose that game to Tennessee and not bounce back against the LSU team that's coming off a win that we talked about. Their coaches departing after the season, so a lot of distractions in the LSU locker room, a lot of unity in the Ole Miss locker room. I think that all the shenanigans in Neyland last week brought that Ole Miss team together. There's videos from the locker room that you can YouTube or Google and see how they reacted to that win. Matty Corral, I think if he plays, if he goes, then I think he's going to run all over the Tigers defense in this one. He's still the favorite for the Heisman. Like I said, he rushed for 195 yards last week against Tennessee. I like Ole Miss to win by 2 touchdowns here.
I think if Matty Corral doesn't play, the game is more interesting all of a sudden. Yeah. Much more interesting. Okay. I don't really have a lot on this one, so let's go ahead and pick it real quick. Maryland at Minnesota. Minnesota's got a loss to Bowling Green in them. Now, they bounce back nicely. They have a win against Nebraska now, which that was a fighting Nebraska team. Okay. I'm not a believer in either of these teams this year. Now, Maryland has come back down to earth and come back down hard. They have fallen flat on their face. This game's on the road for Maryland, so give me the Gophers. Although, man, this game a couple weeks ago, I would have been excited. Now, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota's 5-point favorites in this one. You mentioned it. You said it. A couple weeks ago, it's like this is a game you circle. Like this could be a really fun game that has some major implications in the Big Ten. Maryland is coming off a couple games where they got their doors blown off by Iowa and Ohio State. So they needed last week's bye in the worst way. I think Talia Tagovailoa is going to bounce back this week. They're going to, the offense is going to look better, but man, they look bad against Iowa and Ohio State. Maryland's pass rush should make things uncomfortable for Tanner Morgan, but he's coming off one of his best games of the season against Nebraska, and I think he's going to continue that momentum here. Minnesota's run defense is great. They haven't allowed over 136 yards on the ground since that Ohio State game. So I think all that points to a Minnesota win. I think they're going to cause a couple turnovers and get the win by a touchdown.
That game is 3:30 ESPN2, although the lineup that we read you before that should lead you to watch LSU, Ole Miss, maybe Oregon, UCLA. Clemson Pitt is, to me, the game to watch because I'm just so interested to see that Clemson program in that situation. That very reminiscent, Dustin, of a program that we care about 6 years ago. Looking at a situation like, is this what we think it is? This is going the wrong way here. Okay, let's go rapid fire real quick. Interesting game out west. BYU at Washington State, 3:30 FS1. We talked about the Wazoo situation. I actually like Wazoo to win this game. This is a pretty good BYU team, but they've come back to earth a little bit. I like the Cougars. I've been so impressed by what they've done the last couple weeks. It just stinks that they got this situation thrown in their lap. Give me Washington State at home.
Yeah, I mean, the Rolovich drama-filled saga is finally over, but it's still a distraction to the team. So that's why BYU's 4-point favorites, and I expect them to win by a touchdown.
Okay. Boston College at Louisville. This game's a stinker, buddy. This is not a fun football game to watch. 4 o'clock, ACC Network. Neither defense is worth a dang to me. They both stink on that side of the ball. I just think Louisville can score more points at home. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Yeah, Boston College has averaged 10 points a game over their last 2 games. That won't get it done against Louisville. Louisville's scoring almost 30 a game, so I like the Cardinals to win by a touchdown.
And
they're 6.5-point favorites.
Yeah, and Louisville's lost a couple games close that they probably should have won. So it's interesting. I don't think they're as bad as their record would indicate. Here's an interesting game to me, Dustin. Not for the outcome, because I think we know the outcome. Okay, Tennessee at Alabama, 7 o'clock ESPN. An old rivalry. It's been 17 years since Tennessee's beaten Alabama. Been a long time. Okay. If you're a legal adult, you don't really know what it's like to see Alabama lose to Tennessee. That's how long it's been. And I don't think that changes today, especially with the question mark of Hendon Hooker, whether he's going to start or not. 2 questions. Does Hendon Hooker start? Do you start Hendon Hooker, or do you kind of throw Joe Milton out there to the Wolves and say, all right, we'll take this L right here because I don't think we can win this game? Or does Tennessee keep it interesting? Not just interesting enough for where I think Tennessee could cover this game. I don't think this is a layup cover, Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's 27.5-point favorites. I mean, that's just a big number. Tennessee is coming off an emotional roller coaster against Ole Miss and a leg injury to Hendon Hooker, but I did read he is expected to play and start. This is just a tough draw for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Dealing with that, though. Dealing with the loss last week, in which a lot of people think that, whether it's fair or not, a lot of people do feel that the refs played a huge part in Tennessee's loss there. But drawing Bama, that's just a tough draw for them. Bama is Bama, even though Hooker is starting. I do think Tennessee covers, though. Give me the Tide 38-17.
Yeah, I could see that game being not close isn't the right word. Maybe uncomfortable for Alabama in the third quarter at some point. Mm-hmm. However, they're angry. This is an angry Alabama team. They had their wake-up call on the road against A&M. They came out last week and put the freaking brakes to Mississippi State. I think they can do that again here. But I just think Tennessee's more feisty than Mississippi State. They got more fight in them. And so I look, if Hendon Hooker's starting, they've got a shot to make it interesting. I don't think there's enough firepower to win the game. But let me tell you something, man. How fun would this season be if Tennessee were to somehow, some way, pull that off? How much more fun would this season be? Just Alabama, all right, you're out. Screw you, you're out. But then they still win the West and they go and beat Georgia in the SEC title game. Oh, that'd be great. But I don't think it's going to happen. Give me Bama to win, but not cover. I agree with you. San Diego State at Air Force. These are the 2 best teams in the Mountain West to me, buddy, right here. A ranked San Diego State. They're boring as all hell, but Brady Hoke out there doing some things. He's got a ranked team, San Diego State, just saying. At Air Force, I love this Air Force team. Man, they don't just run the ball with the triple. They run it physically. They beat you up at the point of attack. And I like their defense as well. San Diego State's basically the same team. They just run a different style of offense. I like Air Force at home. I'm high on this Air Force team, damn it. Service Academy football. Give me the Falcons.
Yeah, Air Force is facing the number 1 run defense in the land in San Diego State, but that triple option is going to be too much. It should be a very good game to watch. So this is a game you might want to have on your second screen or something during this time. So should be fun to watch. I think the Falcons win a close one. They're 3-point favorites, so I say the line's a push. I think Falcons by field goal.
I mean, Air Force has legitimate chance to win the Mountain West. I mean, if you take a look at the land and who else is in that league, it's starting to lean that way. Here's would be a chance for them to get a big win today. I tell you what, if they get the win tomorrow at 2 p.m. when you look at the polls, could be a ranked service academy team in there. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
UTSA at Louisiana Tech. This Louisiana Tech team is just bumbling, stumbling. I love this UTSA team. Meet. Give me the Roadrunners.
Yeah, this is a big week for San Antonio. They proved me wrong against you. You know, you picked them last week. I was doubtful. They're moving to the American Athletic Conference, so I think the big week continues. They're 6-point favorites. I think they win by a touchdown. Give me San Antonio as well.
ESPN, if you're listening, 2 weeks from now, UTSA, undefeated, UTEP, going to be about 7 or 8-1 going into that game. Just saying, college game day, you have a chance to go somewhere different. I'm just saying, what a game we never would have thought happened. That's a lot on the line, man. That'd be fun. Do it, ESPN. Damn it, do it. Nevada at Fresno State, another fun game in the Mountain West. Two of the better teams in that league as well. Fresno State at home. It's a 7 o'clock on FS2. To me, this is a pick'em game. I like both these offenses enough. I'll take Fresno State at home.
Yeah, Fresno State's 3.5-point favorites. This is a matchup of two very good quarterbacks in Carson Strong and Jake Haener.
Yes.
Fresno State's coming off a very impressive win against a good Wyoming team, so I like the Bulldogs by about 5.
Yeah, this Nevada team kind of has peaked a little, or they peaked a little bit earlier in the year and late last year, and they're still good. And I think Carson Strong's got a chance to get a second-round grade. So, we'll be hearing that name going forward, I think. But interesting quarterback battle for sure. I love Jake Haener's style of play. All right, Dustin, 7:30 to midnight. This is, again, not a very loaded slate, but there's some fun stuff here. USC at Notre Dame, 7:30 or NBC. Look, man, I've said before, and it's been a hot take, and that's fine. I don't give a damn about this rivalry. It means absolutely nothing to me. I forget that it exists. They play for Golden Shillelagh or whatever they play for. I don't know, man. This is a fake rivalry to me. I'll say it. I say it with my chest. I think Notre Dame wins and wins big at home. This USC team is not very good. They've gotten their last few outings, they've gotten crushed. They had a win against Colorado in there, but outside of that, they have not looked good. They got beat down by Oregon State a couple weeks ago. I like Notre Dame to win. By the way, this is just a milquetoast ass Notre Dame team.
Yeah.
You look at their schedule, they have a chance to only lose that Cincinnati game, by the way. That's it.
Yeah. Notre Dame's 6.5-point favorites. Here's the thing. USC, they've got all the talent in the world.
Of course
they just can't seem to figure it out. The defense has looked okay at times, and the offense is actually best in the Pac-12 in total yards, but the team as a whole is just so inconsistent. Everything I just said could also be said about Notre Dame, though. So USC doesn't pressure the quarterback enough, and I do think Jack Cohn should have plenty of time to make enough plays, despite Notre Dame's shaky offensive line, and shaky is being generous. I do like Notre Dame, but I think USC covers. I think it's actually closer than what you say.
Okay, and I'm not necessarily predicting a blowout. I just don't think USC has enough to win.
No. Now, I will tell you, I agree with you on this rivalry. I would rather them cancel this rivalry and add Miami on the schedule every year.
Well, that's our actual show. We've been covering that the last couple weeks, Catholic versus convicts and all that stuff. That's a much better rivalry than USC Notre Dame. I don't know. Seems like a fake one to me. Although we did get the Bush push out of this game, so that was great. It's always fun to see Charlie Weiss pissed off. All right. NC State at Miami. All jokes aside, there'll be about 12,000 people there. Look, this Miami team is depleted, man.
Yep.
I think if you could have circled this game if they were at full strength and kind of, been like, okay, fun game. Could still be an interesting game because just when you give a little faith and leeway to NC State, they have a tendency to kind of break your heart a little bit. I don't think that is this year. I think this NC State team is really good. Relatively speaking, of course. I think they're a really good ACC football team with a chance to win their side and go to Charlotte and play for the conference championship game. I'll say this. I love Leary quarterback. I love their defensive line. It's really, really good. They're physical. They play aggressive. They're missing some people too, but I just think their offense is too much for Miami. Miami doesn't want to tackle. They don't want to stop the run. NC State can run the ball really, really well. Give me the Wolfpack. I think they win, and it could get a little ugly at the end, man.
Yeah. So NC State's defense is just going to be too much. They're top in the ACC in total defense. They're first in the nation at third down stops, and Miami should face plenty of third down. So that's not a good formula for them. Miami being without Derek King, without Cameron Harris, and without a couple other players, they're depleted. Devin Leary is just going to have his way against that Miami defense also. Yep. So, yeah, the spread on this one, NC State 3.5-point favorites, I think that's way too low. Hammer NC State minus 3.5. I like them to win by at least 14.
That's one of those things. You look at the line, and I looked at it again this morning just to make sure that it was still that. Man, explain that line to me. That's one of those. Does Vegas know something we don't know? Yeah. Am I stupid? Like, is there something? Because, you look at a line every now and then, you're like, well, what does Vegas know that I don't know? Because we just talked about everything wrong with Miami and everything right with NC State. I don't know what Vegas – I mean, maybe it's a helmet game. Maybe Vegas doesn't like NC State, which, by the way, I could totally see because they don't like Pitt and they don't like NC State, and they still favor Pitt this week. So that kind of blew my – and I know NC State is favored, but 3.5 is – that's a slim line to me. I feel like NC State's got a chance to win this by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, especially because, I was thinking maybe they're expecting this to be a trap game. Maybe NC State's looking ahead. I just pulled up their schedule. They got Louisville next week.
Yeah, and then Florida State.
And then Florida State. So, yeah, I don't think that's it. It's a weird line.
To me, the two trap games are Louisville and Florida State. Those are the two trap games because Louisville has a fun offense. They like to score a lot of points. And Florida State's on the road. So, trap game. I mean, if it were in Raleigh, I'd be like, no chance for you, Knowles. And I still think NC State wins that game. But, I mean, hey, here's the thing, and we'll talk about it real quick and move on. If Florida State wins today and they somehow, some way pull off a win next week, buddy, Doak is going to be back to rocking, which is not something I would have ever thought after losing to Jacksonville State. It just blows my mind that the potential is there. Not that it will happen, but if you're NC State, you got to be looking around like, you got to be shitting me. We were supposed to kill these guys. Like, I could totally see that being a thing if Florida State stays healthy, which we know they have a tendency to not stay healthy for some odd reason. God's like, no offensive line for you. We're going to take out his knee. That's what we're going to do. Okay, let's move on. West Coast, Utah at Oregon State. Fun game in the Pac-12. Utah got a big win last week. 7:30 Pac-12 Network, I already said, sorry. I like this Oregon State team. I love what Jonathan Smith has done there. The Beavers are fun to watch. They kind of disappointed me a couple weeks ago, so I'm staying off the Beavers for a little bit, man. You hurt me. You broke my heart when I had faith in you. I just honestly think this Utah team, after starting a little slow, quarterback change, not by choice but by force, but it's worked out to their advantage. I love the way they run the ball. Love their physical defense. Give me the Utes to win on the road.
Yeah, Utah's 3-point favorites here. Now here's some numbers for you as far as that goes. Utah's 2-4 against the spread this year, and 0-3 when they're favored by 3 or more. So that doesn't really spell success for them. But Oregon State, conversely, is 4-2 against the spread, and they're 1-1 when they're underdogs against by 3 or more. So some interesting numbers there with that 3-point line. This is two teams that are at the top of their divisions in the Pac-12. The difference in this one, though, I really like what Cameron Rising has done since he's taken over. Yes. He's 3-0 as a starter, and he's thrown for 690 yards and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions in that stretch. So I think he's the difference, and I like Utah to win by a touchdown.
Yeah, Cameron Rising adds a different dynamic that Charlie Brewer just didn't have. He can move the pocket a little bit, and so if protection breaks down, he can still make plays. And I think the Brewer was a little bit more of a statue back there. So just he's added another wrinkle to that system, which they've needed there for a long time. All right, rapid fire, and we'll get you out of here. Georgia Tech at Virginia, 2 bad football teams in the ACC Coastal. But, again, still a conference game, 7:30 ACC Network. Man, I didn't know where to go with this. I just, you get so high with the highs and low with the lows in Georgia Tech. You just don't know what they are. I think the more consistent thing in this game is Virginia's offense. Now their defense is bad, which I got some question marks about that. But I'm going to take Virginia at home. That's really the only reason.
Virginia's 6.5-point favorites here. I'll tell you what the lock in this one is. Take the over.
Yeah,
both of these defenses stink.
Take
the over in the points. I do like Jeff Sims and the Yellow Jackets to get the upset, though. I think that Georgia Tech gets the win on the road.
Okay, I would like that for Jeff Collins because, again, we're both fans of Jeff Collins, and I think that would be a good win. Here's the thing. Georgia Tech's defense is bad. Did you see what they did to Clemson? This should keep your eye on what all things are starting to mean, man. Okay? All right. I lost my games, man. Sorry about that. Okay. West Virginia at TCU, 7:30 ESPNU. Fun game in the Big 12. Still a lot at stake. I think we know who the clear favorites are in that league, but, if things shook out a little weird for TCU, things could happen. I'm just not pulling for Gary Patterson the rest of the year. Give me the Mountaineers.
Yeah, West Virginia's coming off 3 straight losses, but a matchup against that terrible, god-awful TCU defense is exactly what they needed. TCU's 4.5-point favorites, but I also like West Virginia to get the win.
When you're a defensive head coach and that unit's terrible, it's probably time to hang up the old boots there, Gary. Maybe go write some more bad country songs. All right, Ohio State at Indiana, 7:30 ABC. I'm sad about this game, Dustin, because last year this game decided the division. Well, kind of, because Indiana should have won anyway, whatever. If this Indiana team were what we were hoping they would be, what a fun trap game for Ohio State to fall into. I just don't think they're – look, we saw Indiana against Cincinnati. We've seen them against some other teams. I just don't think Indiana's got enough. And Ohio State, by the way, which we both predicted, found a little something. I think they fixed some issues there. They are pissed about the way they were disrespected early on in the season. Give me the Buckeyes to win and win big on the road.
Yeah, they're 21-point favorites in this one. As shaky as he was in the first of the season, C.J. Stroud's really settled in and found his groove. Last week, Jack Tuttle threw the ball 52 times for Indiana and couldn't even get to 200 yards. He had 188 yards against Michigan State. So I like Ohio State. Give me the Buckeyes by a lot. This is basically a name your score.
Yeah, I hate
which is sad. I hate it.
I hate that's a 7:30 ABC game too, because man, again, your window for good football is 3:30. Start at 3:30. After that, maybe go have a beer somewhere, some wings or something. Take the wife out on a date or whatever, because the noon slate and the evening slate is a little bit of a toughie, buddy.
Not great.
Yeah. So again, we already and somehow we still talk for an hour and 7 minutes. Dustin, anything else before we get out of here?
Go Noles, Walt Bell. Don't you ever show your face in Tallahassee after today again.
Hey, he still had the best press conference answer of all time when I believe it was Jeff Cameron actually that asked him what his role was, and he talked for about 3 minutes and never actually answered the question. Hilarious, man. I think what he meant to say was, "I'm Willie Taggart's. You know what? That's what I do around here. That's what I have going on. That's my role." Yeah, man. Go Noles and go Pitt. Do it, Pitt. Do it. Step on the throat. Do the right thing. I'm not necessarily rooting against Clemson. I just like chaos. And by the way, Clemson is our biggest thing in our way of our comeback to being a somewhat respectable program. I'd like to have them out of the way as soon as possible. So, again, thank you all for watching along. Thank you if you're listening. Really appreciate it. By the way, make sure you go subscribe to the Lateral Podcast wherever you get your podcast. We'll be here next week, which, by the way, Dustin, next week, big games. We're back to having a lot of meat to eat. This year, this week we're eating the scraps. We're eating, what's left over, some already munched up apple cores. Okay. Next week, we're high on the hog, baby. Full roast. Let's do it. And we'll catch you next week on the Lateral.